My name is Carita Forsgren, and I'm from the Tampere University of Applied Sciences in Finland, where I'm the senior lecturer for visual design. So let's start this sharing and see what the GEM project has this time. Hope you can see it. Sure you can. Okay, so I'm here to tell you some tips for using nature as an alternative learning space, and it's part of the GEM project. So let's get going. All the pictures, by the way, have been taken by me in Tampere. Right, the question is, how can we use an environment with natural elements as a learning space for media students? Well, to define it a little bit more, our aim is here to use semi-urban spaces or natural spaces, maybe woods or parks or even nature reserves or beaches, maybe former industrial spaces that have been conquered by nature, and use those as some sort of learning environment in media studies. So instead of a classroom, we go for a while outdoors where there is nature and have our classes there. Okay, so it doesn't mean that we are abandoning technology all the way. We can still take stuff with us into nature. I've done this a couple of times within GEM and also with other classes before the project even began, so I've got some experience. I've noticed a couple of challenges or problems when doing this. Like, one thing is that when people go to nature and when we are in small groups, then we like to relax and we like to chat and maybe gossip, and we don't that much look around us. So we are not concentrating on nature, or we are not necessarily concentrating on any task or learning. We are mostly concentrating on having a good time, and that, although it's a nice way for team building and effective as that, could be distracting if you're trying to learn something. And if there's no structure for the lesson, then that might happen quite easily. Then there's physical discomfort, which happens quite often here in Finland, and I guess in other places as well. I mean, weather may vary. Like in Finland, it's often really cold, and in other places it might be too hot or too wet or whatever. So, and when the students and maybe the teachers, when they are tired or hungry, then they can't concentrate again on learning anything. Yeah, unless they have to learn about how to survive. On the other hand, if things are too safe and too nice, then people get bored. So the question is how to balance with that. And then there's the third problem can be technological, like if we are concentrating too much on our phones or iPads or whatever, or taking selfies while we are in nature, then we don't actually see what's around us. But yeah, that can happen in classrooms as well. So it's not that people shouldn't use technology, it's how they should use it while they are there. Other things, if a teacher has a slideshow to present, well, that's not that easy outdoors, so they have to figure out other ways of doing it, maybe drawing in the sand. I've done that, and it's quite fun, actually. A third problem with technology that we have noticed in the GEM project is that we tried to hold a hybrid class, so that part of the group was elsewhere. They were maybe outdoors in another country, or they were in a classroom, and that didn't work out. So the mobile networks were not very reliable out there in the woods. As a teacher, we had enough to do when we concentrated on the students that were right there. So we couldn't take into account the people who were online. Also, it was hard to hold the phone and to show other people online like what was happening and have a lecture going on at the same time. So that didn't work out, but other things did work out. Here are some of the solutions that we found. One of them was that we gave students tasks either beforehand or once we were out there, outdoors. Some of the tasks were like clearly defined. Some were more freely interpretable. In some workshops, students were given technology which they could use for 3D scanning, well, basically iPads or iPhones. And then they found objects they could scan and later manipulate in the classroom. What we also did, we gave students some sketchbooks and told them to take pens and pencils with them, and we went to the lakeside and drew things. We drew like small details of nature, and later on we talked about what everybody had done. And of course, we used cameras and audio recorders to take videos and soundscapes. And at all times, we teachers try to tell students to not just use their sight, but also to listen, to touch things, to feel the ground underneath them. So and to smell things. So to use all their senses, including the sense for balance. Okay, so most of the tasks were at predefined places and times, so they were not too long. And we had some breaks in between. And there was always a teacher who was with the student group and doing the same thing, basically. In most of these cases, we had a review session or some other session afterwards, indoors, either right away, right after we had done the nature tour, or a little bit later. I think that went pretty well that way. Then there's another solution. The teacher needs to go a little bit earlier to see and try out some different routes, or they can also, of course, use Google Maps or something similar to actually go there and think about what kind of route it could be. How to give students learning tasks along the way that are interactive with the environment, but in a non-destructive way, of course. We've used this for different kinds of classes, and there are a couple of examples for mostly media students, of course. So, for instance, you can use sticks that are lying around and draw things in the ground. If it's a beach with sand, even better, or if there's some snow, also nice. And this can be done by the teachers and by the students, of course. And talking of dead sticks, of course, we can gather all kinds of stones or fallen leaves or other things that are lying around, and then make maybe fine art installations or draw calligraphy. Or for games design lesson, we could use those objects for inventing a game in small teams. And then after inventing the game, everybody will play the game and try it out and give some feedback how it was and what was missing. So analyze it as well. If we have a class in screenwriting, we can think about how to create a scene in this specific place, or several scenes combined together in different places of the route, and what could happen to characters there, or how to frame those characters, or maybe a storyboard. Or with script writing, we could use the hero's journey for the different places in the tour. And with app design, we could think about the place and ideate what kinds of apps could a visitor use there. So those are just some examples. And then, of course, there have to be some caveats. Again, nature is never completely safe, and if it was, it would be pretty boring. So include a little bit of risk and danger in the route, but don't overdo it. Always dress appropriately to the weather and terrain. So don't wear those high heels if you know that you have to jump over stuff. So as a teacher, as an organizer of this nature learning class, I'm thinking that most of the people that we have there as students are grown-ups. So we are not their parents either. We don't need to warn them of every little thing. However, it's good to provide alternative routes if there are some obvious dangers, like jumping over something or climbing on high rocks. And also not all people are as good with their feet as others. Also plan what to do if some accident happens. People might slip and fall and sprain their ankles or get insect bites, all kinds of stuff. So you should know what to do then. Just as if we were in a classroom, it's nice to have breaks every now and then. And then there's the littering thing. So I do understand that some people like to smoke cigarettes outdoors. Please don't let the butts fall anywhere in nature, but put them in somewhere safe, because a small animal might die from eating a cigarette butt. And it's also not good for the ground. Don't litter or break branches from living trees and such things. So we are not there to destroy nature, but just to visit it and maybe learn something. Okay, so what can be gained by using an approach like this? Why should we go to have lessons outdoors at all? So, of course, there's increased well-being from being outdoors and being in nature immersion, and using all the senses that does make people happier and healthier. There is some research on that. Also, moderate exercise is good for us. Thinking of media and thinking of being a content creator, finding new ideas and inspiration is quite important for us, as is team building and getting social cohesion, getting to know your peers in other settings than in the most obvious ones. So I think that was it. Thanks and bye.